Clara Whitmore had no reason to follow the dog. That was the first thing she would tell anyone later, when they asked why she had gone into the woods that afternoon, instead of turning back like anyone else would have. There was no urgency, no clear sign of danger, no sound calling her forward. Just a dog. And even that wasn't unusual. Strays passed through Ashford Hollow often enough, especially when the seasons began to turn and food grew harder to find. Most of them kept their distance. They lingered at the edges of things, near barns, near garbage piles, near people, but never too close. This one was different. Clara noticed it just past noon, standing at the far end of the road near the old Miller property. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. At first she thought it might belong to someone, a farm dog that had wandered too far. But there was no collar, no mark of ownership. Its fur was uneven, thick in some places, worn thin in others. Not starving, but not well-fed either. It held itself in a way Clara couldn't quite place, still, alert, as if it had been waiting. Clara slowed her steps slightly, her boots pressing into the thin layer of frost that had settled overnight. The air carried that early winter edge, not fully cold yet, but close enough to feel it coming. "You lost?" she said, more out of habit than expectation. The dog didn't respond, didn't bark, didn't come closer. It simply turned its head slightly and looked past her toward the line of trees that bordered the road, then back at her. Clara followed its gaze. The woods stood quiet, nothing unusual, nothing calling for attention. She looked back at the dog. It was still watching her, waiting. For what, she couldn't say. Clara gave a small shake of her head and continued walking. There was work to be done. The fence along the lower field needed checking, and daylight came shorter this time of year whether you noticed it or not. By the time she reached the bend in the road, she'd already stopped thinking about it. It was the sound that brought her back. Not loud, not sudden, just out of place. A short bark behind her. Clara stopped, turned. The dog was still there, but closer now. Not by much. A few steps, enough to notice. It barked again, once, then turned and walked a few paces toward the woods. Stopped, looked back. Clara frowned slightly. "That's not how this works," she muttered. "Dogs didn't lead. They followed, or they stayed away. This one did neither." It stood at the edge of the road, its body angled toward the trees, its eyes fixed on her again, waiting. There was something deliberate in it, not nervous, not curious, intentional. Clara glanced down the road ahead of her, then back at the dog. "Go on," she said, lifting her hand slightly. "Off with you." The dog didn't move. Another pause. Then it made a softer sound. Not quite a bark. Something lower. Insistent. Clara felt a small shift in her chest. Not concern. Not yet. Just attention. "You've got somewhere to be?" she said. The dog turned again. Took a few steps toward the trees. Stopped. Looked back. Clara exhaled slowly. This was how people wasted time, following things that didn't need following. Still, she took a step toward it, just one. The dog moved again, same pattern, forward, stop, look back. Clara hesitated, then followed. The ground changed as soon as she left the road, softer, less certain. The frost gave way to damp earth beneath scattered leaves. Roots pushed up through the soil, catching at her steps if she wasn't careful. The trees closed in slowly, thinning the light until everything felt dimmer than it should have been. The dog moved ahead of her, not fast, not slow, just steady, always a few steps out of reach, always checking back. Clara kept her distance, close enough not to lose it, far enough not to crowd it. "This is a bad use of time," she said aloud. The words sounded different here, quieter, like they didn't belong. The dog didn't react, it kept going. After a few minutes, Clara stopped. The trees had grown thicker. The path, if there had been one, was gone. She turned slightly, looking back. The road had disappeared, hidden behind the land and the trees. "That's far enough," she said. The dog stopped, turned, looked at her. No confusion, no hesitation, just the same steady expectation. Clara stood there, her breath slow, her thoughts catching up. She didn't know this animal, didn't know where it was leading, didn't know what waited ahead. And yet, she hadn't turned back. Not yet. "Whatever this is," she said quietly, "it can wait." She shifted her weight, preparing to step back. The dog made a sound, sharp this time, not loud, but enough. Clara paused. The dog stepped closer than before, closing the space between them, not threatening, but firmer now. Then it turned and moved faster, not running, but urgent. It slipped between the trees and disappeared from view. Clara stood still for a moment, then she followed. The ground sloped downward as she moved deeper in. The air cooled, not dramatically, just enough to settle into her breath. The dog reappeared ahead, waiting again, closer now, as if the distance between them had quietly narrowed. "All right," Clara said under her breath. "I'm here." She didn't know why she said it, only that it felt necessary. The dog turned again and led her further. She noticed the smell first, faint, metallic, wrong. Clara slowed immediately, her attention sharpened. That smell didn't belong here, not naturally. She moved forward more carefully now, her steps quieter, her eyes scanning. The dog had stopped, standing near a small clearing ahead, its body still, focused. Clara approached slowly, one step at a time. The clearing opened, small, bare, the ground disturbed, and at the center, something lay against a fallen tree. At first, it didn't make sense. The shape was wrong, folded in a way her mind didn't accept. Then it did, and she saw it clearly. A person, half covered in leaves and dirt, motionless. Clara's breath caught. She didn't move at first, didn't think, just looked. "That's not," she started, but the words didn't finish, because the dog moved. It stepped forward slowly, then sat beside the body, waiting. Clara stepped into the clearing, closer now, close enough to see the details. The coat, torn, darkened. The ground beneath, disturbed, not placed, dragged. The person lay on their side, one arm bent beneath them, the other stretched forward. Clara crouched slowly, her movements controlled, her breathing steady. Too steady. She reached out, paused, then placed her fingers near the person's neck. Waited. A second passed, then a pulse. Weak, but there. Clara exhaled. "They're alive," she said quietly. The words felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. The dog remained beside them, still, watching. Clara looked at it, really looked, at the way it had led her, at the way it had stopped exactly here. "You knew," she said. The dog didn't move, didn't need to. Clara looked back at the person, then around the clearing, at the broken ground, the scattered signs, the quiet that didn't feel natural anymore. Her expression shifted, subtle, but certain. "This didn't just happen," she said under her breath. The wind moved faintly through the trees, cold, carrying something heavier with it. Clara stood slowly, her mind already moving ahead, beyond the moment, beyond the shock,
toward what this meant, toward what came next. She looked at the dog again, still waiting, as if it had done its part, and now it was her turn. Clara nodded once. "All right," she said. "I understand." And in that small clearing, with the cold settling in and the forest holding its breath, something shifted. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough. Enough that nothing after it would be the same. Clara did not move right away.
That was the first thing she noticed about herself. Not fear, not confusion, just stillness. As if her body understood something her mind had not yet caught up to. The dog remained beside the figure, sitting quietly, its eyes fixed not on Clara, but on the person lying in the dirt, waiting. Clara exhaled slowly and shifted closer, careful, measured. The ground beneath her boots felt different now, looser, disturbed. She crouched again, this time lowering herself further, her eyes scanning the details she had missed before. The coat was torn along the side, not clean, not from wear. Something had pulled at it, caught it. The fabric around the shoulder was darkened, not just dirt, something deeper. Clara's jaw tightened slightly. She reached out again, this time more deliberate, and brushed away some of the leaves near the person's side. The movement revealed more of the damage. A wound, not fresh, but not old either. Poorly treated, or not treated at all. "This isn't from a fall," she said quietly. The words settled into the space without echo. The dog shifted slightly at the sound of her voice, but didn't leave its place. Clara leaned in closer, her fingers moving carefully along the edge of the coat, checking without disturbing too much. The breathing was shallow, uneven, but still there, still holding. "Hey," she said again, softer this time. No response, not even a flinch. Clara sat back slightly on her heels, her eyes moving across the clearing again. Now that she was looking properly, she could see it. The signs. Broken branches at shoulder height, scuff marks in the dirt. A path, not walked, but forced. Something had happened here. Not quickly, not cleanly. She looked at the direction the marks led, deeper into the woods, then back at the person. "They didn't end up here by accident," she murmured. The dog made a low sound, not a bark. Agreement, maybe, or just awareness. Clara looked at it again. "You brought me here," she said. The dog held her gaze for a moment, then looked back at the person, as if the answer didn't matter, only what came next. Clara reached into her coat and pulled out the small cloth she kept tucked in her pocket. Habit, preparedness. Not for this, but close enough. She folded it quickly and pressed it gently against the wound. The fabric darkened almost immediately. Not heavily, but enough. "Still bleeding," she said under her breath. Not good, not terrible, but not something that could wait. She glanced back toward where she had come from. The woods had already closed behind her, the path gone, the distance unclear. Getting help would take time. Time this person might not have. Clara looked down again, at the shallow rise and fall of breath, at the stillness between each one, measuring, deciding. "This is where I leave," she said quietly. Not because she believed it,
because it needed to be said.
This was the point where most people would turn back, go for help, bring others, do things the right way, the safe way, the way that didn't involve carrying unknown weight through uncertain ground with fading daylight. Clara exhaled slowly, then shook her head once. "No," she said. The word was quiet, final. She adjusted her grip, sliding one arm carefully beneath the person's shoulders, the other beneath their legs. The body was heavier than she expected, not just weight, dead weight, unresponsive, harder to balance, harder to control. She lifted slowly, testing. The strain came immediately, pulling through her arms and into her back. She steadied herself, adjusted, tried again. This time she committed. The person's body rose, uneven but supported. Clara held there for a moment, her breath tight, her balance shifting. "All right," she murmured. Not to them, to herself. The dog stood as soon as she did. No hesitation, no confusion. It moved a few steps ahead, then stopped, looked back, waiting again. Clara noticed it this time, really noticed. "You're not done," she said quietly. The dog turned and began to walk. The return felt longer, heavier, each step slower than the last. The ground worked against her now. Roots caught at her boots. Snow thinned and thickened in uneven patches. The person's weight pulled against her arms, against her shoulders, against everything that was already beginning to ache. Clara did not rush, could not. Every step had to hold, had to land, because if she fell, she would not be able to lift them again. And she knew that, the kind of knowing that settles in without question. Her breath shortened, her grip tightened. Once, just once, her foot slipped against a hidden root. Her body tilted, the weight shifted dangerously. She froze, adjusted, waited, then continued. Because stopping was not an option she allowed. Not anymore. The dog stayed ahead, never too far, never too close, always within sight, always checking, guiding, not leading blindly, but keeping direction. Clara followed without thinking about it now, because thinking required energy she didn't have to spare. By the time the edge of the trees came into view, her arms were trembling, her legs unsteady, the cold settling deeper into her bones. But she kept moving, because the clearing meant distance, and distance meant possibility. When her cabin finally appeared beyond the slope, it didn't feel like relief, just something reachable, something that hadn't been there before. Clara exhaled slowly. "Almost," she whispered. The word came out thin, but it held. She adjusted her grip once more and stepped forward. Behind her, the woods returned to silence, as if nothing had happened there at all. Except the dog, still following, still watching, still making sure she didn't stop. Clara did not remember opening the door, only that at some point she was inside. The weight in her arms was lowered carefully onto the narrow bed against the wall, her movements slower now, less certain as the last of her strength thinned out. The room felt smaller than before, quieter, as if it had shifted to make space for something it had not expected to hold. She stepped back slightly, her hands still hovering for a moment, as if unsure whether letting go had been the right choice.
"They're still breathing," she said under her breath. Not relief, just confirmation. The dog entered a moment later, uninvited, unstopped. It crossed the room without hesitation and settled near the bed, its eyes fixed on the person Clara had carried in, watching, the same way it had in the clearing, as if its part in this had not ended yet. Clara moved quickly then, not rushed, but without pause. She grabbed a cloth, water, what little she had.
Her hands worked through habit, not thought, cleaning what she could, checking what she understood. The wound along the side was worse in proper light, deeper than she had seen in the woods. Not clean, not simple. "This wasn't just one thing," she murmured. The words settled heavily. Whatever had happened out there, it had not been brief. She pressed the cloth gently against the wound again, watching for a reaction. Nothing. No movement, no resistance. Only that faint, uneven breath. Still there, still holding. "Stay with it," she said quietly. Again, not to them, to the moment. The light outside began to fade, slowly, then all at once. The kind of dimming that comes earlier than expected when the season shifts without warning. Clara lit the lamp. The room filled with a softer glow, enough to see, not enough to feel safe. She worked in that light, reinforcing what she could, binding what she couldn't fix. There were limits to what she knew, and she felt every one of them now. But stopping wasn't an option. Not yet. The dog had not moved, not once. It remained near the bed, silent, alert, watching the rise and fall of the person's chest, tracking it, measuring it, as if it understood the importance of each breath. Clara noticed that, more than anything else. "You didn't leave them," she said quietly. The dog's ears shifted slightly, but it didn't look at her. Clara nodded once. "Neither will I." Hours passed, or something close to hours. Time didn't move properly in that room. It stretched, collapsed, became something else entirely. At some point, the breathing changed, subtly, but enough. Clara leaned closer, watched, waited. Then, a movement, small, barely there. The fingers twitched, just once. Clara froze, her hand hovering in the air. "Hey," she said softly. No response, but the stillness had changed, not empty anymore, not entirely. "Good," she murmured. "Stay there." She sat back slowly, the weight of everything settling in now that the immediate work had been done. Her hands rested in her lap. Still, tired. Her body caught up to her. The strain, the cold, the distance, all of it arriving at once. She let it. There was nothing left to hold it back. The dog shifted for the first time. It stood, walked to the door, then stopped. Looked back at her, at the bed, at the person. Clara watched it. There was no confusion in its movement, no hesitation. It had done what it came to do. "You're leaving," she said. The dog held her gaze for a moment, then turned and stepped outside. The door remained slightly open behind it. Cold air slipped back into the room. Clara didn't move to close it right away. She just watched, listened, waited. But the dog did not return. After a while she stood, walked to the door and closed it. The latch settled into place with a quiet, final sound. When she turned back, the room felt different. Not empty, but changed. What had been brought into it remained. What had led her there was gone. Clara stepped closer to the bed again, looked down. The breathing continued, uneven, but stronger than before. Still there. She nodded once, a small movement, more for herself than anything else. "You made it," she said quietly. The words were simple, but they carried weight, because not everything did. Not everything made it out of places like that. Clara pulled the chair closer and sat beside the bed. The lamp flickered slightly. The fire cracked softly. Outside, the cold settled deeper into the ground, into the trees, into everything it could reach. But inside, for now, nothing else was being taken. Clara rested her hands together, her eyes fixed on the slow rise and fall in front of her. And in the quiet that followed, with no one there to ask, and no one there to answer, she understood something she hadn't before. Some things don't arrive with explanation. They don't announce themselves. They don't ask permission. They simply appear. At the edge of a road, at the edge of a decision. And if you follow them, if you choose to step forward instead of away, they leave you with something you didn't have before. Not clarity, not answers, just change. And the quiet understanding that you will carry it from that point on, whether you meant to or not. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.